My name is John Dalton. Today is October 9th, 2012. It is my absolute honor and privilege to be interviewing the vivacious and youthful and beautiful Mitzi Gaynor for the Archive of American Television. Mitzi, we're going to take a few minutes just to get some information about your early years and influences. What was your name at birth?
At birth, baby girl Gerber.
What was the name on your birth certificate?
Francesca Mitzi Marlene DeChania von Weisgerber.
Wow. When were you born?
In Chicago. I was born in Chicago, and I'm not going to tell you what year.
Fair enough.
September the 4th, I'm a Virgo.
Okay.
Pain in the ass.
And you grew up in Chicago?
No.
Where did you grow up?
When I was 3, my family decided to move to Detroit, as I like to say, Detroit. And my family moved there. My mother and father were in show business. My father was a cellist and an orchestra conductor, and a very serious man, also a Virgo. And he was born in Hungary. My father played. My mother was a flapper from St. Louis. She looked like Marlene Dietrich, and if you didn't say, Pauline, you look just like Marlene Dietrich, you say, do you notice how much I look like Marlene Dietrich?
And what was your father's name?
Henry Gerber.
And your mother's name?
Why do you ask my mother's name?
Because we just want to have a complete record.
Do you know that when the bank investigates you and makes sure that you're not lying and stuff,
they ask for the mother's name?
You're not going to know my mother's name.
What was her first name?
Pauline. My mother was a dancer. She had a dance act. They would have loved her on Dancing with the Stars. It was, what was it? Ernesto and Pauline. My mother's name was Ernesto. And 2, 3, 4. No, I stole that from George Burns. Anyway. And she was famous for doing the fish. Now the fish was, you started on one side of the stage and you ran like crazy, and then you jumped. And when you jumped, he's supposed to catch you like this, see? So you look like a fish, and then he'd throw you up in the air. My mother, it was Chez Prairie in Chicago, right? And she ran and she jumped right off. She landed up in like Al Capone's lap or something. And that's the day that she gave up the business and had me.
Do you have any siblings?
No, I don't think so. I mean, who knows? No, I don't, and I tell you why. If I did, they would all want money, so no.
So you're pretty sure?
Yeah.
Okay. What were your interests growing up?
Dance, music, naturally.
Did your interest in dance stem from your mother's former career as a dancer?
No, my auntie was a dancing teacher, and she wanted me to, I don't know. Any talent, anything I can do has nothing to do with me. It's my parents. The blood of them is coursing through me constantly. And, and I have a drop or two of my own, but show business is my life, darling. Don't you understand?
At what age did you become sort of seriously interested in dancing?
Let me see. Okay. I'm not my dancing teacher, the one that was the reason I came out to California, didn't believe in little bitty baby girls going into ballet class. Ruins their legs, babies have to. So I think I really, really knew what I wanted to do. Definitely was probably by the time I was. Well, when I first started to do Carmen Miranda imitations, I'd say probably about 8.
8 years old.
Yeah.
How did you come to the Los Angeles Civic Light Opera Company?
Well, my mom and dad separated, and the war was on. Not the Civil War, but the, Spanish-American, no. And I was a little girl, and my dancing teacher said, we're going to, by that time, see, my middle name is Mitzi, so after Francesca. Oh, by the way, in Detroit, you didn't go to school with a name like Francesca because they'd punch you. So Francesca turned into Frances, and Frances DeChania von Gerber became Frances Gerber. And I'm very proud of the fact that when I first started show business, my name was Mitzi Gerber until I went to Fox, but you're not interested in that.
We will be.
I know. You asked me about how I got into the
Civic Light Opera Company specifically.
When we came out, I went to LeConte Junior High School, and terrible thing happened to me. You want to hear it?
Yes, please.
When I left Detroit, I was in the B6 of grammar school. That's the first part of the 6th grade. When I came out here, I took the test, and they put me in A7. So I skipped A6 and B7. And this Hungarian beef with the dark brown hair from Detroit, as they say, I skipped that whole transition. And the kids I went to school with went to Cherimoya Grammar School. And they were all blonde and gorgeous and surfers. And they used to, can I tell you all of this? You can cut it and chop it up
No,
and do it.
please.
Okay.
Go on.
The first thing I learned when I came to California, went to LeConte Junior High School, was boys and tan and bleach. So in the morning, the girls would go downstairs, on Mondays especially, into the girls' lab and take bleach and rub it in their hair and then let it drip. And then they'd go, dry it in the sun and then go upstairs to class. And this bleach would run through their hair. And that's how stripes came, the California stripes. Did you know that?
I did not.
Okay, now when you get married and your wife does that, you're going to say, I know where that came from. And so Madame Etienne was my teacher. And she said, we're going to take the Mitzi to California, make her a movie star. When I was 11 years old, I looked 30, and one of those things. I never was a little girl. Like, I never had any, birthday parties or kids over. We always lived in an apartment someplace in not the best part of town. Anything that I ever got or that I enjoyed had to do with the theater or movies. Of course, there wasn't such a thing as, I think the first time I saw television was at the Detroit Art Institute when they had a television screen there. And the World's Fair was on in New York.
You know what year that was?
I think it was 41. Was it? When was was it the 19, I think it was 39, 1939.
Right,
Was
yes.
it that?
Mm-hmm.
Was it?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so that's the first time I saw television. You mean you could have that? Nah, you're never going to.
Do you remember what was on?
No. I think it was kind of a panorama of it's the one with the ball and the obelisk, right? Yeah, that's.
And what was your impression? Were you impressed?
I couldn't get over that we would be able to have. Now, instead of listening to soap operas when you were sick in bed, or with the earache, in Detroit you had the earache or the croup. You could, instead of listening to Aunt Jenny, now you could see her on. Wow, would that be swell? Not movies. We didn't think we could get to see movies, but it's amazing. It's amazing, isn't it? I mean, it's amazing.
So getting back to the Civic Light Opera Company,
yes.
What shows did you do there?
What you asked me that about a half an hour ago, didn't you? Okay.
It's fine.
Okay.
We're good.
My first job was with Ada Broadbent. She was, and my first show was Song Without Words, The Life and Times of Peter Ilyich Tchaikovsky. Don't leave me, Peter Ilyich Tchaikovsky. It was marvelous. And Mia Slavenska was our ballerina, and Anton Dolan was our choreographer. It was really quite amazing. And then I kind of liked being at that. I loved it.
What did you learn during your time there?
Well, I learned a lot of things. First of all, I was one of those people that could do anything, and at my age, and with my background, I mean, knowing classical music, and I could sing, and, I was kind of like what they used to call a triple threat. And, when I got into it, I was 13. And, of course, I couldn't work at 13, so they said it was 16. So I'm paying for those 3 years still, and I'm not going to tell you because you won't believe me anyway, but I'm 3 years younger than you think I am, sort of, on one side anyway. What I learned not to be a snot. Oh, honey, I was such a pain. Well, I'm not going to do it. I can do it better than you. One time I got a little bit too much, and I threw my shoes and my dance case on the floor and stomped out of rehearsal and went downstairs to the lab. We were at the Shriners Hall. And I heard Betty Slaby, a dancer, really old, maybe 22, 23. How she could come down the stairs, I have no idea. And she banged on the stall and she said, Mitzi, get your ass out here. Come on. Well, she reached inside, grabbed my foot, and she pulled me underneath the door, me kicking and screaming. She said, listen, kid, you act up like that, I'm going to put ground glass in your toe shoes. Well, I didn't know, but I thought she meant it. And I said, but, she said, we're all depending on each other. We're in show business now. If you want to be a pro, you can't act like that. Then she said, no, this killed me. She said, you want a cigarette, honey? That was my lesson.
It's a great story. And
it's
an
a true
important
story,
lesson, yeah.
Yes.
Of course, today we're here to mostly focus on your television work, but we would be remiss if we didn't ask you about some of your classic films. How did you come to be signed by 20th Century Fox?
I was in a show with the Civic Light Operas called The Great Waltz with Walter Slezak, who is very, very famous, and Dorothy Sarnoff, who played the Countess, and some movie people coming to see the shows, and Mr. Lester, who was the entrepreneur of the Civic Light Operas, wanted Mitzi to do well because I was under contract to him. The better I did, the more money he was going to make, right? Wonderful, fabulous man, absolutely genius. So I got an agent. Mitchell Hammelberger was his name. I took his card and I went like this, and it was engraved. And the other agent's cards weren't, so I took Hammelberg. You understand that? Yes. More money, better. Okay. And guess who his only client was? Hopalong Cassidy. And me, 14. No, I was by this time 16 because I was in the Civic Lighters for quite some time. I did Louisiana Purchase with the original cast. I mean, Irene Bordoni's, Vera Zorina, blah, 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 blah. Don't look at me like that. And then, so I was in this great waltz, and he said, you have two things to do for me, Mr. Lester said this. And I said, what? He said, Cole Porter's doing a new musical. I want you to go and sing for him, which is a whole story. We would be here until 4 o'clock in the morning. I'm not going to tell you about it. But he wanted me. Cole Porter was marvelous. And then Henry Costa, the director, and Saul C. Siegel came to see me one matinee, Saturday matinee, and came backstage and said they wanted to give me a screen test. Now, every girl from Detroit wants to be a booby star. Don't you know that? Hey, I could, work for Cole Porter, but that's just the theater. Now we're talking. And guess who was going to? Betty Grable and Dan Daly. Betty Grable, I love you, Betty Grable.
And this is My Blue Heaven.
My Blue Heaven, yeah. So I kind of gave up the theater after that.
And what do you remember about being on the set of My Blue Heaven?
I was so crazy about Betty Grable, she used to get that kid away from me. I would follow her into the John if she had to go to the bathroom. Are you all right, Miss Grable? I mean, it was so bad. And Dan Daly. First thing I did when we had a scene together was, a mark is on the, they do it in television too, of course. A mark is on the floor. On the stage, there are no marks. You rehearse and you rehearse, but you don't rehearse in film. And so I was supposed to come, hello, Mrs. Johnson, how are you? Well, first time I came in, I walked over my marks, and my face threw a shadow on Betty Grable. And before I could say my line, which I projected, hello, Mrs. Johnson, how are you? She said, the kid's got a shadow on my face. So I had to back up. Start all over. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that. You can, you can tug on Superman's cape. You can spit in the wind. You don't tear the mask off the old Long Ranger, and you do not throw a shadow on Betty Grable, your first day to work. So she was kind of sweet and nice to me, sort of, but...
Did she give you any advice at all as a first
Yeah, keep out of my shadow. I mean, don't throw any shadows on me. No, she was... Oh, yeah, Betty and I became very good friends. She was... But, I loved her. I was amazed I was in a picture with her. And finally, she was complaining to somebody, Alice Faye was one of her dearest friends. And Alice said, what are you talking about? She used to do that to me. Betty Grable used to follow Alice around because they did a couple of pictures together, so I don't know. It was a wonderful experience.
It's all a circle.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? Huh?
What kinds of roles were you getting sort of at that time in your career early on?
I was getting little girl parts, like Take Care of My Little Girl.
So you were sort of typecast in that role.
Yeah, well, I was what they say a triple threat. I could sing and I could dance and I could do accents and I could do all kinds of things. If I had been at Metro, I don't know. Warner wouldn't have a place for me at all. But Mr. Zanuck kind of liked me, and they were grooming me to be the new Betty Grable. In the 30s, there was Alice Faye. In the 40s and early 50s, there was Betty Grable. And in the middle 50s, there was me. Well, that's a very long story because we're going to talk about Marilyn in a little while, aren't we? Yeah.
Yes, we are.
Yeah, so.
Do you remember the first time you were on television?
Yes.
Tell me about it.
Oh, it was great fun. I had cut my hair. I met my boyfriend, who was going to be my husband, Jack Bean. I was slim. I had broken up. I had a big, heavy romance. I had broken up, and I knew Jack Bean, and I knew he loved me, and he said that he was an agent with MCA, and George Jessel, who was my mentor at Fox. Metzela, how are you, darling? He was fabulous. He said to me when I went in to talk to him, he said, Gaiba, he says, are you Jewish? I said, no, sir, I'm Catholic. He said, oh, okay. You want a delicatessen? I said, no, sir, I don't. He said, how about the baby foods? I said, no. He said, we're going to change your name. Francesca, Frances, Mitzi, Marlene, DeCharny, you're going to change my name? And he said, yeah. Remember a dame by the name of Janet Gaynor? She used to be under contact here. Of course, she was still alive then. I said, yes, of course. He said, okay, you're going to be Mitzi Gaynor. So I called my daddy, my father, and he said, what? And I said, they want to change my name. He said, to what? I said, Daddy, I will always sign my checks, Mitzi Gerber. And he said, what? And I said to Mitzi Gaynor, he said, oh, the nice Janet. Okay, so that's how I got to change my name.
And so you were on the George Jessel show?
Yes.
And do you remember what you did? Did you dance and sing?
No,
like
I
sketches,
didn't. I wore one of Marilyn Monroe's dresses. And it was too big. Ha, ha, ha. Not up here, of course. And I was it was my wolf girl period, too. I shaved the points of my eyebrows off and grew big lips and lots of things. And I was so hot. And on the way down to the studio, we were going down Sunset. And we passed, and it was raining like crazy. I seem to have good luck in the rain. And we passed this motel, and it said, left turn okay. And Jack said to me, honey, I said, no, dear, I have to go to work. So a little aside there, 3, 4, okay. Yeah, but he was wonderful. Listen, Mitchell, tell me your story. And I said, okay, Mr. Jessel. Okay, Mr. Jessel, what do you want? By that time, I was really, really old. I was like 19 and smoldering. I bet you were smoldering when you were 19, weren't you? Sure.
do you have any memory of the 1954 Academy Awards?
No, not at all. Donald O'Connor. Jack called me and he said, Donald O'Connor's going to host the Academy Awards. Oh. And Mitch Lyson's going to direct the show. Oh. And Billy Downey is going to do the choreography. Oh. And you're going to do The Moon is Blue with Donald O'Connor. Oh. I loved it. I'd never done it. I mean, except for the Georgia Jessel show. It was incredible. It was so much fun. People just cheered us. It was wonderful. We did it at the Pantages Theater. Did you ever know Donald?
I did not.
Sorry about that. That was a real human being outside of all of his talents.
And he was a great dance partner for you.
Oh, he was a marvel. He wasn't as good a dance partner as Gene Kelly, because Gene had been a partner. He was a good partner. And Donald, but Donald and I loved each other enormously. Another Virgo.
And you appeared on his Donald O'Connor's television show, correct?
Yes, 3 of them I did with him. 2 in black and white and 1 in color.
What do you remember about those?
It's so hard to talk about things like that because we knew each other so well. Mm-hmm. We did The Moon is Blue on the Academy Awards, And then we did No Business Like Show Business together. And I played his sister. And we loved each other. You know, we worked very well, extremely well together. And he and I both were kind of a pain in the neck because we're both Virgos. Not that Virgos are all a pain in the neck. It's just that we're always right. And if you only do it our way, then you only have to do it once. And then we can go and eat, which is what life's all about, isn't it?
Exactly.
Exactly.
Speaking of There's No Business Like Show Business, how is it working with Ethel Merman?
My best girlfriend, Ethel, and I, the first day that we met at the office of Saul Siegel, who was the producer. And I came in and I went, and she said, "Hello, kid, how are ya?" I said, "Oh, Miss Merman," you know, all of this. And she said, "Listen, kid," and she proceeded to tell me the dirtiest story I've ever heard, joke I've ever heard in my life. And when I come to your house for dinner, I'll tell you, I can't tell you. But it was so much fun. And we just hit it off. And I played her daughter, Katie, and she was Mom. We were just really, really close.
And your other co-star in the film was Marilyn Monroe.
Yeah, I feel sorry for, I do. I feel sorry for all of our reaction to Marilyn because Marilyn was a good girl. Marilyn was very, very talented. Anybody that says that she wasn't is crazy. She was working on being Marilyn Monroe. She didn't have any help, really, when you think of it. Everything that she did herself. And she was always late. She was scared to death of all. Well, honey, this nest of vipers, Ethel Merman, Dan Daly, you know, Donald O'Connor. I mean, poor, you know, for instance, like poor Johnny Ray, he didn't know what was going on, and he was deaf in both ears. So whenever there would be some kind of a brouhaha going on the set, he'd just pull out both of his aids, put it down, and start to read the newspaper. I mean, and so Marilyn was in, and Ethel was saying, "All right, where's the blonde?" That's a nice way to say good morning, isn't it? And so, and Marilyn never watched anything but her lips, and when she stopped talking, then Marilyn would say her words. Ethel wasn't used to that, you know. One time we were working on, we were doing Lazy in Donald and I and Marilyn, and Jack, my boyfriend, I wasn't married yet, came to visit me for lunch, see. And our dressing rooms were all in a row. And Jack was coming to find mine. And Marilyn opened the door and posed like Marilyn Monroe and said, "Hello, Mr. Bean, how are you?" And I said, "Jack Bean, you get in here right now." And I married him at the end of the picture, by God.
Speaking of Jack Bean, your husband, what effect did he have on your career? What did he do for you? He represented you, I assume, after you were married.
Jack Bean was my everything. This is very, very hard for me to talk about my husband. He's still, I still wear my wedding ring. He was an agent. He was fine. He was kind. He was gentle. He was a good man. He was so respected. He was tough. And listen, if I had married Jack, I wouldn't be here with you now. I mean,
so he knew how to present you.
Yes, he did. Yeah, I guess. See, I don't see it as my presenter. I see it as the love of my life, my husband. They'll never be. They don't make them like that anymore. Maybe they do someplace, and I'm not looking, so I'm pretty lucky, huh? So you're all safe, guys. Forget about it. I'm very rich, by the way. I'm a widow and very rich,
I can
yes.
tell. You want to say anything about...
I'm in love with you. You're terrific.
You want to say anything about Anything Goes and working with Bing Crosby?
Oh, I loved it. Okay. Can I tell you, on our honeymoon, Jack and I, we got a phone call from the people that were going to do a new from George Abbott, Mr. George Abbott, wanted to speak to Jack about me coming to meet him at the theater where Pajama Game was rehearsing, and he wanted to talk to us about a project. So Jack and I, Mr. and Mrs. Bean, went to visit, and we were upstairs in the producer's office. And he said, "Mitzi, do you know anything at all about Faust?" Which was kind of a strange question. And I said, "Yes, sir, I do." And he said, "We're going to do a play about baseball." And I thought, "Oh, that's nice." And he said, "And we want you to be in it." And I said, "Why?" He said, "Well, it's the story of a young man who sells his soul to the devil. And it's called what?" And he said, "It's called Damn Yankees. And we've written a part for you called Lola." And Jack said, "That's fabulous. When do they go into rehearsal?" He said, "We're going to go in January." And Jack said, "Gee, I'm sorry, Mr. Abbott. We can't do it." I'm saying, "Jack, this is George Abbott." And he said, "I know, dear." He said, "We can't." I said, "Why?" He said, "Well, sir, I've just signed Mitzi to a 4-picture deal at Paramount." And that's how I did Anything Goes with Donald and with Bing Crosby and Donald. Bing Crosby, Taurus, divine, perfect, fun. He used to call me Brookie. "Why do you call me Brookie?" He said, "Well, darling, because when you walk away, you look like a little brook trout going upstream." Who wouldn't love somebody like that?
It's perfect. How about Les Girls with Gene Kelly?
Gene Kelly.
He's your best dance partner, would you say?
Oh, yeah. Well, he was everybody's best dance partner. Jack did the choreography for us, and we had worked together before. And Gene worshipped Jack, but he'd never worked for him or with him. You know, Jacko was the kind of choreographer that you didn't work with, you worked for. Mm-hmm. He had a certain style that you had to, if you did it, you were marvelous. If you didn't, you were good because Jack only wanted the best for you. But Gene and I hit it off just like that. He had seen me in The Great Waltz, and I came to visit on the set, somebody, I forgot. I came to get a job, but I was too young. And thank you. And I noticed over in the corner, some people were sitting, it was obviously on a lunch break, and a guy in chinos and like a golfing shirt and a cap. And he said, "Hello, Miss Gerber." And I said, "Hello." I couldn't see who it was. And he said, "Aren't you going to say hello to me?" And I said, "Hello." And he said, "It's Gene Kelly." He had seen me in my show. And then as I was going into the office to see Chuck Walters I wanted to be in Barclays of Broadway, to be the other woman. 18, thank you. And he said, "For Mignonette is a soubrette, and in the paper she is called the people's pet." And I just said, "For she is petted too in private." And then I walked into his office, and I've known the most fat, haven't I, so far?
Yeah.
Aren't I just think about how lucky I am. I've never met a stinker. I've never had to work with a stinker. Some people are kind of a pain, but we're all kind of a pain, you know. Oh, really?
You want to talk a little bit about appearing with Frank Sinatra on his variety show? Do you have any?
Oh, that was a ball.
Good stories,
I think.
yeah.
Well, what they wanted to call it was Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, and Bing Crosby present Mitzi Gaynor, and it was for Timex. Oh, I can't say that, or can I?
You're fine.
Okay. Well, can you imagine the madness? Can you just imagine the madness? I mean, it was, and then of course the next day when I finished work, I had to get on a plane and go to Greece, to the island of Rhodes, to work with Noel Coward and the King, Yul Brynner. So it was fabulous. And my big surprise was their big surprise. They brought on Jimmy Durante, and he said, "What's going on here? What's going on?" It was madness, just absolute madness. Frank was going with Juliet at the time, and Dean was, I don't know what he was doing, and Bing was being Bing, and it couldn't have been better. Couldn't have been more fun.
Do you remember any numbers you did on that show with Frank
I know.
Sinatra?
I did Hurricane Mitzi, because there was, Florida was full of hurricanes at that time, and it turned out very well. I was very pleased. As a matter of fact, we won the Peabody Award for it. How about that?
Impressive.
I had to accept, and I spoke English, everything, like a really grown-up, and I didn't giggle or do my dumb stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's important. So your probably most famous film role, South Pacific, how did that come about?
Honey, I don't, you'll be an old man by the time I tell you all about it. But Jack said, they're going to do Oklahoma, and I think that you'd be wonderful doing Ado Annie. And I said, and I was on layoff at the time from Fox. So we went to see Fred Zinnemann, and he was, Mr. Zinnemann was German. And he said, "Now tell me, Miss Gaynor, what can I do for you?" And I said, well, Herr Zimmerman, I said, I would very much like to be in your picture, Oklahoma. And he said, yeah, what part is this? And I said, I would like to do Edo Annie. He said, ach, Miss Gaynor, I'm so sorry. He said, we cannot do this because we have already signed someone. Oh, yes, who? Gloria Graham. Gloria Graham? Well, I thought she did a good job. Didn't you see the movie? I thought she did a damn good job. But we met some people that represented Rodgers and Hammerstein. And like that, it just kind of grew. I was going to, I wanted to do Sayonara with Frank Sinatra, with Marlon Brando. And we were in New York, Jack and I were in New York, and one of the people, his name was John Fernley, said, Josh Logan wants to see you. He was going to direct, see. And so in the car, he said, I have good news and bad news. Pardon me. He said, in the car, he said, I have good news and bad news. He said, the good news is that Marlon's going to do the picture. The bad news is that he won't do it unless he had really Asians. And I thought, see, I thought because my eyes go up, I thought, you know.
You could pull it off.
I could pull it off. Listen, I could do it Japanese if you wanted me to. Oh, anyway, so we went to see him, and the door opened in his apartment, and there he was. His hello, Nellie. And I looked at John. I wasn't so sure, but I knew Jack wasn't Nellie, so it must have been me that was Nellie. So I went in, and we were there for almost 3 hours. He wanted me to test for South Pacific, and I said yes. And I was the only actress that ever said yes, because I'd come from the stage, you know, from the theater. I could test. I mean, hey, we all have to, you know, that's what it is. And so it seems as though everybody else would say, no, you've seen all my films. You look at my films. Please. You can't say that to, no, not if you really want it. Also, interesting, I also sang everything in Mary Martin's Keys.
Had you seen her on stage?
I saw her, no, I didn't. I didn't see her on stage. I saw, I can't remember. No, I didn't. I didn't see her. Not until we were going to do the film.
But they didn't have to change the music for you? You sang it in her keys? And...
That's all very important, you know.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. You know, when I went to see Mr. Rogers, and boy, I tell you, Josh looked me over really carefully, and he said, you're wearing a mink coat? I said, yes, sir. And he said, where'd you get that? And I said, my husband gave it to me for my anniversary. He said, make your shirt, you make sure that you tell that. And so, and poor Dick had a cold. He didn't feel so good. And he said, well, and he said, would you like some tea? And I said, yes, please. And he said, so they brought in the butler, brought in the tea. And I said, gee, that looks good. And he said, would you be mother? And I said, I was so dumb. I didn't know that meant, would you pour the tea? I thought, and then I said, no, sir, we're not planning on having children just yet. So then he thought that was kind of amusing.
So around the time of South Pacific, or right after it came out, you appeared on the Perry Como show. Any memories of Perry Como?
Well, I did a show later with Perry, and I swear to God, I do not. What did I do on that Perry Como show? By the way, I have to tell you, I lose spaces sometimes.
I understand.
I do not remember. I can remember preparing for the test for 20. Would you like some?
I'd love one.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Preparing for the test for South Pacific. I don't remember doing the test. I must have been in some other world. I mean, I guess I really wanted it. But tell me what I did. What show was it? What year was it?
Well, how about, do you remember the Jack Benny Hour?
Oh, God, yes.
How was that?
Fabulous. Well, of course, they didn't really need me because they had, you know, the marquee chimps. And they didn't know what was going to happen. Everything that happened on that stage. Well, it's in your archives, isn't it? It's probably one of the most important things that Jack Benny ever did. I mean, that, and also having Gregory Peck sing and dance, that's almost as good as a Marquis Chimps right there. It was, and Jack was divine. God, he was good. He was just marvelous. I had a good time.
Did you sort of learn anything about comedy from him, about timing?
Timing, very good. Yeah. I step sometimes. I'm not a lagger backer. I have learned to kind of count sometimes when I say 3, 4, that's what I mean. Wait until they get it. It's like, for instance, I know this has nothing to do with anything, but sometimes when you ad-lib something and the band laughs in your band, take it out because the audience is never going to get it. They don't have a clue what you're talking about. So I think I kind of reach people because I understand how they feel at times.
And according to what we have, you appeared once again on the Academy Awards in 1961 and sang "There's No Business Like Show Business."
For days I sang "There's No Business Like Show Business." For days I sang "No Business Like
You mean
Show."
in rehearsal?
No, we were short. The first time in the history,
Oh.
we were short. And Valentine Davies, I think, was the director. And every time I go to, let's go on the show, let's go. Exit. And you go back. There's no. And Irving had written, Mr. Berlin had written a couple of choruses. And that was it. So I kept going back to the same chorus over and over and over again. And funny, Jerry Lewis was the host that year. And he introduced me as, and now a word from your sponsor, meaning there's no business like show business. Oh, it was a hoot. It was a real hoot.
So the credits were rolling and you were still singing?
No, this is in the middle of the show, in the middle of the show.
So in 1961, you hit Las Vegas. What was your act like?
Well, it was 1 hour of absolute paradise. Nobody had ever done anything like it. I had 4 guys, fabulous 4 guys. I had Livingston and Evans write special material for me. I had an incredible, a man I had done a film with, just, I was so lucky because there wasn't another show like mine going on. And Bob Sidney was our choreographer, who talked a lot like Tallulah Bankhead, by the way. Hello, darling. All right, don't be silly now, darling. I'll tell you exactly what to do. I said, that's a very interesting accent. What is it? He said, phony. So I fell in love, I mean, and I like people to be real with me, and you can say anything just about it. If it triggers my funny bone, I'll love you because Virgos are very loyal. You may not like us anymore, but by God, we're going to be loyal to you.
So at around that time, you stopped appearing in feature films.
I quit films because they quit me. I mean, Marilyn Monroe was now the new Alice Faye, Betty Grable, Marilyn Monroe. She was doing, the musicals at Fox. And I wasn't going to do My Fair Lady. And I wasn't going to do The Hills Are Alive with the Sound of Screaming. And I wasn't going to do, there was nothing for me to do. So when this man by the name of Morris Landsberg came to see us, he wanted me to, and an enormous amount of money, and some points in the hotel. So I thought, well, what are we going to do? And it's hard for someone from the theater to be themselves. The hardest thing in the world is to say, hello, I'm Mitzi Gaynor, and I want you to give me some money for my charity. That's hard. The people really have to. It's hard to be on television and do my kind of thing because I'm in your house now. I mean, some very, very famous, marvelous actors don't make it on television because people can't relate to them. There's no there. Does it make any sense?
Did you find that there was any kind of snobbery in film about being on television or vice versa? Talk about that a little bit.
Awful lot of snobbery about being on television. I remember one guy, because he was very hot at the time, said, people who can't do it anymore have to go to television. And he'd only made like about 2 pictures. Hello? Doesn't seem to work like that, does it? Now people kill to be on television. If it wasn't, just think what television has done for humanity. I mean it. It's amazing. It's thrilling. And you get to meet the nicest people.
In 1964,
Yes.
you took your Vegas act onto the Ed Sullivan Show. And on that particular episode, you were joined by the Beatles. How did that come about?
For like 10 years or something, Ed kept getting after Jack for me to be on a show. And Jack said no. Why? Because you never let anybody do anything. I mean, they can barely hit the last note of the song. And you're, all right, folks, isn't that really, And he said, Mitzi will only be on the show when you give her some time. I had 13 minutes. 13 minutes on the Ed Sullivan Show. And so he asked me to come to New York. Well, we were going to be there anyway. This was October 63, to come to New York and do a promo for the show. And now, folks, Mitzi Gaynor is going to be on our show. We've tried very hard to get her. And I'm all teeth and eyelashes and diamonds and gorgeous and all this kind of stuff. Yes, of course, all this business, the real me. And he said, and so really on the show we're going to have Alan and Rossi, and from Liverpool, 4 guys called the Beatles, rock and roll. Okay, thank you very much. See you then. Ed, Liverpool, rock and roll, the what? The Beatles, B-E-A-T. Oh. That was October 63. February 64. I mean, and I had top billing. I have a picture someplace and I can't find it.
I've seen it.
Have you?
Yes.
Does it say Mitzi Gaynor with so-and-so?
Yes,
It does. So I try to tell people, oh yeah, sure. So, okay, remember I told you about Bob Sidney? Mm-hmm. We're in rehearsal. And the Beatles are, doing what they're doing. And Paul is on the stage, see, with his back to us. And we're coming in. Bob's in. He said, get that girl off the stage. And I looked and I said, Bob, he said, get that girl, go. All right, who's the assistant? Get that girl off the stage. I said, that's one of the Beatles, Bob. I said, that's Paul. He said, I don't care. Get that girl off the stage. With that, Paul turns around and laughs. I mean, falls down. Then he tells the other 3, and they're on the floor. Bob said, I don't know what's so funny. Anyway, makeup. And I said, no, it's my show. You're not going to be made up. It was panic. Now.
So you were on the second week. They had done New York on the 9th. And then the following week, you all went down to Miami.
Yes.
And that's where the show originated from Miami that week. And did you realize at the time how culturally important the Beatles were and those shows were?
No, I had no idea. I've got 13 minutes, for heaven's sakes. Nobody ever got 13. And my name was above theirs, right? And so, okay, I have
And basically you did what you had been doing in Vegas on the Ed Sullivan show.
Yeah. I did 13 minutes all crammed in of just the singing and dancing. Very little, no talking whatsoever, and perspiring.
Yes, judging from the YouTube videos, it was very hot in that
But you couldn't see it on the Beatles because they had all the hair, and I'm cut down to here.
Right.
And the Catholic Church banned me. They said I was lascivious, a nice Hungarian beef like me, a lascivious girl. Oh, God, and I'm a Catholic. Well, because never
Was that your first brush with that kind of thing in your career?
I'm not, Yes. I can't see how, in quotes, a sex symbol can stand being banned by the Catholic Church.
Did you have sort of any beyond
Just excuse me.
Yes,
Let me
ahead.
finish this. I'm back in good graces, so don't worry about it. Okay.
You got a dispensation?
I got a dispensation on my Schwitz.
Beyond, calling Paul McCartney a girl, did you have any other interaction with the Beatles that week? Did you?
Well, I think when you asked me these questions, you must have heard about the one with my darling hairdresser when they came knocking on the door. One of their helpers said, could we please borrow Mitzi's hair dryer? And Tommy said, they're the Beatles, tell them to get their own. I said, you can't say things. My God, Tommy. Next day I said, Mitzi Gaynor bans Beatles, can't use. It's just... So he said, screw him.
What did you think of their performance on the show?
Oh, it was marvelous. Of course, I was only thinking about me. I'm sorry, but when you're doing stuff like that, you can watch after. But I thought they were, I was in love with them. Weren't we all? Huh? Okay, so now the son-in-law, I can't think, you'll have to plug me in on that. Ed's son-in-law, who produced, do you remember? Bob Precht said we're all invited in the dining room at the hotel for dinner. So they came in, the Beatles, came over to me and kissed me and asked me for my autograph. The Beatles asked me for my autograph. Are you listening to me? And they came and they sat down at their table. They took their coats off, hung it up on the back of the chair, and sat with their knife and fork like this, waiting to be fed. Good guys, good.
So you got along with them.
Oh, yeah. Why not? I mean, they were geniuses.
What was the audience like on the Ed Sullivan Show that week?
The audience was absolutely so insane, you have no idea. It was so packed and so hot, and the air conditioning ducts, they had to cover them up with lights. It must have, well, you know what it's like in Florida. Oh my God. And you could see people, if you saw them in profile, water was dripping off the ends of their noses. But it was madness. It really was. And I have to say, the audience got their money's worth because, of course, they didn't pay anything. But I mean, the audience really got, because the Beatles were fat. It was a wonderful show.
And some would say you outshined them, though.
Who would say that?
Oh, I would, because you sang and danced. They just, sang.
Yeah, but you have to. Well, yeah. I think the girls. No, the girls wanted to see the guys.
The girls in the audience.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So you
Get
appeared.
off. Where are the Beatles?
Did you feel that? Did you feel that people
You don't feel that. You don't dare. I love the audience. I can't wait to work. I just. My idea has always been. That's why Bob Hope told me something really important. He said, go on the road. You're on the road. People come to see you. Then when they see that you're going to be on television, they watch your television shows because they saw you on the road. And one hand washes the other, and that's why Bob has always been, he was always so successful because he was almost attainable. And I think that's when you think of somebody in this time now, too, with the economy the way it is, I know, 100 years maybe when they're looking at this, thank you very much, it will be maybe the same, who knows, to spend money to come and see. They don't come there to hate you. They want to love you. They want to have a good time. If you can just remember that, that's what it's all about. That's why I love television so much, because we can be together. Whenever I work it, it's part of me. When I did films, I kind of was a little afraid of the camera. I don't know why, I just was. Like Sophia, for instance, Sophia Loren loves the camera. The camera loves her. That's what I feel about television. I love it. I know I'm digressing.
No, that's fine. Just sticking on Ed Sullivan for a second. You appeared on his show several times. What was your relationship like with him?
I only did 2 shows. Once I stood up in
okay.
the audience in New York, and the big one.
So you got the big one and then out. That was it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, I don't think you'd ever have me again. Lascivious. Don't forget Irish
Do you think that affected? Do you think he was?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
But I think, from then on, he couldn't give me, 15, 13 minutes. He couldn't do that again.
Yeah.
So.
And
I miss those shows.
They were good.
Weren't they? I miss those people, too. Where are you going to see, Toto and all right. When are you going to see, where are you going to see them? There aren't those things anymore.
It's a bygone era.
And the comics. Oh, God, the comics. It is.
Moms Mabley and Jackie Mason.
Oh, Jackie Mason.
In 1966, you appeared on the Danny Thomas Show.
Yes.
Along with Sonny and Cher and Jim Nabors.
Yes.
And you met someone else who was pretty influential. Do you want to talk about that?
About
a certain
Mackey?
costume designer.
Yeah. Danny Thomas, I had known and loved like all of my life. And he kept after Jack. Come on, we want Mitzi to be on the show. So he said yes. Jack said yeah. And I was supposed to go and meet the costume designer. His name is Ray Aghion. And Ray Aghion was a Persian and fun and gorgeous. And like sometimes you meet somebody and it's like this. And that's the way we were together. And he knew me and knew my body and, knew everything. And he said, darling, I want you to take the sketches and really study them. They're very, very good. I said, wow, yeah. And I fell in love with the sketches. I said, you know, Ray, you have to be the greatest sketch artist in the world. These things, he said, no, darling, I don't draw. He said, I have a friend, Bob Mackey. He is my partner. He said, he do sketches. Well, I mean, the clothes were amazing, absolutely amazing. I didn't know, I didn't meet Bob Mackey. I was going to do a new show. I called Ray. I said, I'm going to do a new show, baby. Would you do my costumes? I'm so in love with you, I can't stand up. He said, darling, I'm up to my ass in Judy Garland. I cannot do this. He was doing her show, see. So he said, but I send my friend over. So we're at rehearsal, and I'm in my leotard, my matching scarf, and my 4-inch heels, doing something strange and wondrous, whatever it was, and there's a knock on the door. This blonde head comes around, and he says, Miss Gaynor? And I said, yes, knowing, of course, he wanted my, whatever it was, wanted my autograph. He said, hi, I'm Bob Mackey. I said, your voice hasn't changed yet. Get in here. And that was 66? Mm-hmm. So we've been married ever since.
And in 67, you had appeared on the Christmas episode of the Kraft Music Hall. Uh-huh. Could you talk about that show a little bit?
That was a surprise. I didn't know I was going to do that. Jack said, no, for years. And I think the fun was being with Ed McMahon, because I was in love with Ed. You know, everybody was in love with Ed. And he wanted to sing in the worst way. And he did. Sing, I mean. And he was great fun. I had a ball. It was marvelous.
What was the format of that show? Was it just sort of music variety?
Yes, it was music variety and Christmas, and it was marvelous. It was. I can't give you any specifics. Oh yes, one specific I can. The choreographer. I can't think of his name right now. Isn't that terrible? Who did the first show, honey? Peter, the choreographer was Peter Gennaro, mm-hmm. And he talked like this. And I said, how are you? I'm fine. I said, it's interesting. And he said, yes, I know. He said, I have a little lisp. He said, I went to therapy, and they had me talking like this. So I went back to that. He said, it's more manly. Is that fun? Yeah. Oh, he was great. He did my first television, he did Mitzi.
Okay, before we get to Mitzi, I guess at some point doing Danny Thomas or Kraft Music Hall, it came into your and Jack Bean's mind that you would do your own special. And before you did your own special, you performed Georgie Girl on the Oscars, which apparently is the most heralded musical number ever in the history of the Academy Awards broadcast. Talk about that a little bit.
Okay. Georgie Girl. Ernie Flatt was my choreographer at the time, and he had done a show for me. And we were in Puerto Rico at the Americana Hotel. And the phone rang, naturally. Jack answered the phone. Johnny Green. Then it was Johnny Green. Now it's John Green, you know. Johnny Green answered, he said, Jack, I want Mitzi to do Georgie Girl on the Academy Awards. And Jack said, what's a Georgie Girl? We hadn't seen the picture. Mm-hmm. And so he said, honey, yummy, do you want to do it? I said, sure, why not? So we said yes. So we took time and we did it. We finished our act, went back and we rehearsed it and did it. And it was amazing because the strike was on ABC television, and it was supposed to be on ABC, Channel 7 in Los Angeles. Mm-hmm. So no matter what, we had to do the Academy Awards if we were going to be on television or not. It didn't make any difference. And so we were in the motel next to the Santa Monica Civic, and we'd just eaten a nice hamburger, and I was taking my snooze before. And who was the anchor? Can you remember the anchor at the time on NBC? I mean, on ABC?
For the awards telecast?
No, he was the newscaster, the famous one, the one that didn't get along too well with. What's his name? I hate this one. I can't think of his name. Okay, you have to fill it in for me.
John Daly?
No. No, John's a sweetheart. This guy was, you know who I mean? Oh, it's terrible. Name me some, at the same time, well, okay, Walter Cronkite was on CBS, right?
Right.
This guy was on
David
ABC.
Brinkley was on
No,
NBC.
NBC with Chet.
Harry Reasoner?
Huh?
Harry Reasoner? Harry Reasoner?
Harry Reasoner said,
Reasoner.
"The strike is over." Bump, ba-dum, bump, into the shower. Me, ba-da-da-da-da-dum. And we hit the theater, and it was fantastic. Cars and things and stuff, and we were going to be on television. And we, of course, rehearsed it. And Bob Hope, I don't know, anybody tell you things about Bob Hope that are really charming and interesting? He eats through the entire show. You know, the guy follows him around with the makeup, and he has a tray and a mirror and a little something. So he does his shtick, and then he goes off and has just a taste of maybe a little piece of cracker or cookie or something, then back again, maybe a little sip of Coke or water or whatever it is, just keeps it going. And he said, Joe Pasternak was the producer. Can I tell you about this?
Yes, please.
Okay. So we had dress rehearsal, and I have an old pair of tights on and some, dance shoes, and yeah, it's rehearsal. And my costume wasn't ready for the dress, and I had rehearsed it in mock-up, so I had like a old piece of stuff with a collar and all that kind of. I mean, it worked, but it was nothing. It was terrible. Joe Pasternak said, "Mitzi, you look wonderful." I said, "Oh, thanks, Joe." The water pouring off of me, sweat, and he said, "You're going to dress up a little bit tonight, aren't you?" I said, "Yeah, Joe, I will." I thought, can you believe it? I mean, this man has only done like 100 of the most important pictures of all time. And he said, "You're going to dress?" I said, "Yeah, I'll think of something. Don't worry about it, Joe." Oh, it was fabulous. It was absolutely. And okay, so we finished. Do, George, girl. Like my hands are like this, and the guys are like this, and I'm saying, "Okay, when do we break? When do we break? Tell me when to break. When do we break?" And then I said, "What the hell's going on?" And one of the guys said, "They're standing up." I said, "When do we break?" And then finally I just went like this and we all took a bow, and it was the most thrilling night of my life. That was a pretty special thing because Pat Neal it was her first appearance after she'd been so ill. Mm-hmm. And Ginger and Fred kind of walked around. I mean, it was a very special night. Amazing.
Why do you think your piece was so heralded and well received?
Because it was good. Yeah,
it was good.
He did a really, really good job. I don't know if it was me. I don't know if it was my guys. I think it was the right team, the right place, right tune. And Jerry Fielding did the choreography. I mean the orchestration, and it was marvelous. I have never been cooperated so beautifully in my life as far as movies are concerned. I got my own conductor, piano player, my own guitar, and my own drummer. This is never heard of. On the set, they played, which was, and that's another thing, because we rehearsed, so we really knew what we were doing. Very important. I'm called Rita Rehearsal. I like to rehearse. I like to know what I'm doing.
How had sort of appearing on the Academy Awards changed from when you first appeared in the 50s to the 1967? Was the attitude sort of different?
1967 was still. Well, of course, that was a news product. When you think of it, it was news, wasn't it? Mm-hmm. It wasn't a sitcom with has-been actors, as they liked. Amazing, too. I mean, no, I don't know. I work, and when I work, I don't care.
You're focused.
I just go and do my thing. Bombs go off, okay. I've had a man have a heart attack on my foot once. I was singing a ballad, hoochie coochie, and carrying on like a crazy one. "Oh, baby, baby." And he goes, off, faints dead away on my foot. They had to carry him out. I just moved to the other side of the stage. I want to, I always say, I got you in here. I've got the doors locked. You're not going to leave until I entertain you, no matter what, even if I have to kill you.
Well, Mitzi, on that note, we're going to take a break and change the tape.
Oh, how nice.